You brought up Matthew Perry's death before. Matthew Perry overdosed from ketamine a few years back, and you and I spoke a few months ago. Late last year, the doctor who sold the actor ketamine in the weeks leading up to his death was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison. That wasn't even the ketamine that ultimately killed Matthew Perry. But right now, like I said, there's no charges against Dr. Perry. There's just the FBI investigation. But are you seeing any similarities here?
Yeah, this case has lots of parallels. Certainly, I think ketamine is getting a lot of attention. By the way, ketamine, if we went back in time 25 years ago, the government was worried about it as a drug of abuse. We went through this whole period where ketamine became a real subject of interest for the important things it's doing in helping address treatment resistant depression and post traumatic stress disorder. But now we are coming back to these cases where it is leading to patient deaths and is proving dangerous. And I'm seeing a real uptick in investigations of ketamine and in problems on the ground. I'm hearing from addiction treatment centers that patients are showing up with real ketamine addictions. It's a very different kind of a drug, but it is dangerous, and the government is clearly worried about it. And this case has all the hallmarks of the Perry case, right? What we saw in Perry was a series of doctors, some of whom actually took steps and stopped prescribing, but of course there was somebody else in line who picked it up. And unfortunately, the doctors who were convicted and went to prison, who really, what we saw was they didn't hold to the standard they needed to for how they treated Perry, and I worry that that's what we're going to see here.
One of the prosecutors in the Matthew Perry case, he called one of the doctors that gave Matthew Perry ketamine, not the ketamine that killed him, but gave him ketamine. He said that he was a drug dealer in a white coat. And when you're thinking about these cases in general, not this one involving Jim Irsay specifically, but in general, when a doctor gets in trouble for being negligent with a patient here, what do you think some of the biggest hurdles are for prosecutors to overcome? I mean, what is the doctor's best line of defense?
I think that doctors have to take patients as they see them, right? I think the best line of defense is that the patient gave them information that appeared to be truthful, and that they completed an examination and they didn't have all the facts because the patient didn't provide them. What the boards and the government are going to try and do is say, listen, you needed to go get all the records of the previous providers. But I think that's always what the doctor's going to fall back on in a case like this, is to say, this patient presented to me, and I got information from him, from his family, from all the people around him that led me down this path to make the diagnosis and provide the prescriptions, and I didn't have the full picture. And that's really where the rubber meets the road, and where the tricky work of figuring out what the doctor should have known, should have done, should have believed, should have verified, all those questions are going to be the real, the area where we finally figure out, what the doctor did wrong or did right, and where this case goes.
As an attorney here, then, what specifically are you looking out for next in terms of this investigation?
Well, I think we're going to get more details very likely as this case comes forward. I'm curious whether there are other people in the picture, because someone like Mr. Irsay, somebody like Dr. Hartunian, inevitably there's a whole network of people around them, and often the failures are not just the doctors; it's the managers, it's the enablers, and what the role is of those people in this case. So I'm curious who else is out there, who else played a role, what the communications were, how carefully Dr. Haratunian was watching, Mr. Irsay, and how involved he was. He sounds like he has a busy practice, and I expect that will be a big issue, is how much he was just prescribing, by the way, large quantities without a careful handle on what was happening, or not. And so we'll find out.
Certainly a lot to look out for, and as we see developments here in this investigation, I hope you can come back on and break it down. Harry Nelson, thank you so much for the time. You're welcome back anytime.
Brittany, really a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.